Namaste, my dear friends. I'm happy to share this last episode of my series with you. And this time I welcome all of you to join me for an interactive session where you can ask me questions so that we end in a way that is satisfying for all. It's not like I'm going anywhere, I'm available, but we want to open the space for others to share. I think you've had enough of me every Saturday. It's become like a TV serial. I wanted to start today's session with a small reflection. We have been journeying together and we have been talking about guidance that Mohanji provided us with and continues to provide us with, and the inspiration, as he says, to become a solid unit so that the unit can become one with the universe. So this spiritual path is the path of dissolution, going even beyond enlightenment in dissolution. So conveniently, I chose carefully the last photo for the poster. If you may notice, there's a part where my head joins Mohanji's head, and the hair looks like his hair is my hair. It's like a small merging point. So I call this photo the merging photo, because the joining point between our heads looks like it's merged into one. So I feel if one has an aim in life, for me it would be to merge with the consciousness that Mohanji represents, to merge with the highest of the unity consciousness, the purest of love, the highest of bliss. And this merging is the greatest success one can achieve. It's even beyond what mind can fathom or imagine. And all of us have our ambitions in life, we all have our path. So for me, I somewhere carry the memory of this unity state. It's somewhere deep inside, alive in me already, as if I remember how it used to feel. And I was helped by this great ups and downs in life when I had a near-death experience, when I had some samadhi kind of like experiences, and it helped me to actually increase that longing from within. So this longing is not it doesn't fall into the category of desire, you know. Desires are actually connected with linear time and with Maya, the illusion. While this innermost longing to merge with the unity consciousness is something that's so deeply part of all of us, that only when the mind is quiet can we actually become aware of this deepest possible longing. And we limit ourselves so much, you know, with our mind projects so many desires which are actually nothing great, you know, they're just a puff in the air. So once we become aware of that, we start digging deeper. So in my case, the book Autobiography of a Yogi was that moment in time when I saw the new horizons, when I understood what one can direct the inner compass towards what, you know, and it's like some veil was removed from my eyes, and I started observing my surrounding in a different way. So in 2004, you know, my dream came true. I got this most amazing scholarship, which I would never ever be able to afford otherwise. The studies at Notre Dame, which is Ivy League university, and this master's degree was really amazing, and there were topmost professors, topmost students, everything was top category. But after Autobiography of a Yogi appeared, it just didn't seem like much, you know, because I've understood the game, I understood the illusion, and you know, there was this interesting part in Autobiography of a Yogi where Yoganandaji says how you know, you just observe the intellectuals, how they will have this technique of quoting somebody great from the past, And then the more you show how you know this wise man or this philosopher, or have knowledge of this and that theory, your erudition and your eloquence and all that is kind of showed off. It's a bit of a show off. It's kind of imposed by the educational circles, and all professors, and they all quote somebody. It's a very normal thing to do. Right? While we don't actually have this value of keeping somebody who is at such great level that he or she can download any knowledge, doesn't have to read any book, but download the knowledge directly from the highest consciousness and deliver it and expound it in a simple way and make it relevant for the contemporary time. Now, if you compare the two, quoting somebody from the past and kind of analysis and synthesis through the intellect, and bringing the knowledge from the source, presenting it in a concise manner so that everybody can understand, even the non-educated people. And that knowledge is actually something that expands the awareness, that it inspires, that uplifts. And isn't that greater? So that's where I understood that the true masters, the people who have mastered the mind, the true gurus, are the actual heroes of any age, any era, any time. And that was the book that gave me a goal to have a living master in my life who would always remind me of that presence, of that freshness, the ever new knowledge. It's the knowledge that's actually old. We can't really invent anything new. Knowledge is knowledge. It's just a matter of adapting it to the present time and making it relevant for people. So obviously right now we cannot talk in the same language that, for example, Jesus Christ spoke with the sheep around, with people going barefoot from one town to the other, or maybe going by ship, but that's about it. And now the era of nanotechnology and airplanes, and it's a big difference. But aside from this history that we know or we think we know, because a lot of our history books actually are not correct, there is other history. There are other times and eras that we are not familiar with. But in the Vedic India, they have spoken about this in such a way that it actually blows your mind. They speak about the yugas. So this is my subject for my next podcast. So I'm not going to go into detail here. But my point is that time is actually not linear. This linear time is again part of the illusion, the Maya. And once you meet somebody who can actually perceive reality from the vertical time, where you stand in one point and you see past, present, and future as one. For example, this is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, right? When Krishna speaks to Arjuna, and Arjuna is really depressed that he's supposed to be fighting against his own relatives and friends. And Krishna tells him, "Oh Arjuna, but don't you see, they have already left, So it's like he speaks from that vertical time. So I was able to relate to this, because I had glimpses of this vertical time. And I'll start this sharing today by one such experience, where maybe I will be able to relate to you, just as per my experience, how a state like this feels. Now, I was a student, and I came from one summer vacation or whatever. I came to Serbia, and I met this amazing lady, Ljubica, who was an invalid. And at the age of 25, in her peak of her youth and success, she had a car accident and became paraplegic. So she can't walk, she can't move her arms, and for 10 years she was on the edge of suicide. And then slowly Osho's books and some spiritual books inspired her to dig deeper and to overcome this urge to kill herself. And she became a really good, a very deep past life regressionist or hypnotherapy practitioner. This is now quite popular. We have Dr. Brian Weiss, we have Newton, we have many of these famous personalities. Many of our friends, my own sister and many of my friends have actually gone into this path of hypnotherapy because it really allows you to dig deep. Now, in hypnotherapy session, you can go to past lives, but you can also just connect with your higher self and allow the session to flow as it's supposed to, nothing in particular. And I felt I wanted to ask something like this, where I'll just connect with my higher self and allow the session to flow, to get the right message for me from my higher self, relevant for that time. So there was like induction method into that state, and after the induction part, I found myself in a park. It was a beautiful day, and I remember everything is very vivid. It's not imagination. You can actually see the colors of flowers, you can feel the tree, everything is alive. But there was a very strong connection with my intuition. And my intuition was that there was a bench. And I felt the calling to not just sit on the bench, but to step on the bench and sit on the parts of the bench where you usually lean on, right? So I put my feet on the bench and I sat on that part for the backrest. And as I sat there, I waited for the next instruction, because why would you sit like that on a bench? And then the instruction came, get to know the depth of your surrender. Push yourself with your feet against the bench and go into salto. Now in yoga, we know that all the asanas where you push the chest out and you go into this kind of extensions, extreme extensions, it's actually connected with the surrender. And that's true, like actually allowing yourself to go into the unknown. So it wasn't simple to do this, because it's like, a thought may come, what if I fall flat on top of my head and break my neck from this bench? And as I said, it's a very real experience. It's not like you feel this is some dream, so I'm just in a la-la land. No, it's very real. So I kind of inhaled, exhaled, and I gathered my strength, and I pushed myself against the bench with my feet. And as I started falling backward, I kept falling, and I kept falling. And this was going on for some time, but I was relaxed in this falling. There was no thoughts, there was no worry. I was falling, and it was okay. And then I found myself on a hill. It was a beautiful hill. And from the top of this hill, I can see literally rivers of people coming towards me. And I'm like a being of light. I can just feel that I'm emanating this powerful golden light. And I'm so calm and blissful and expanded. And in a way, I feel all these people are within me. They are part of me. It's like a whole universe of people inside of me. So, as I said, there were no thoughts of intellect or logical mind. There was nothing to, and I was just to be in that state. And it was so beautiful. It's such a heightened state of love and unity consciousness, where everything is within you. And then people come. I know that I have golden light, because when they come towards me and they look into my eyes, I see a reflection of my golden light in their eyes. And in that moment, as if their eyes expand a bit, and it's like, it's in 1 second, full realization happens. In other words, they remember. They remember everything. At the soul level, they remember. And then, with a beautiful, blissful smile, they go through me. I'm like this big ball of golden light. They go through me into the higher consciousness. And it was so blissful. One by one, they would come. They were like my children. And the amount of love I felt was indescribable. And it was so beautiful. It just takes a second to remember. It's not any effort. It's all effortless. I'm just there to hold the light for them. And they come, they look, they remember, they go through me and dissolve in the light. And then a moment came when one man came, he looked into my eyes. There was no reflection. And then I was surprised. And I realized, oh, he can't see me. I'm invisible to him. So I was looking, why he can't see me? Everybody else can see me, but he can't. And he kind of looks, and nothing is there. He can't see me because his frequency is too low. Right? His frequency is too low to see me. And then he starts walking in the other direction. And because I'm in the vertical time, I can already see, as if it already happened, that there is a ditch, very deep and dark ditch there, which is not really visible. And he's going straight towards that ditch. He's going to fall into the ditch. And I'm in a state of shock. Like, what do I do now? Part of me knows I'm supposed to remain at my post and just calmly radiate my light, allow others to come. But because I'm so compassionate and so expanded, it feels like a part of me is going into the dark ditch. And it hurts beyond description, you know? It's that pain of separation, the pain of ignorance and blindness. Suddenly that whole thing came. And because I gave it attention, it ripped me apart. I remember in that session I cried so much that everything here was wet. There were tears flowing into my ears. I was sobbing and falling apart because in that state there was no defense mechanisms, right? You don't have, right now within our emotional system, we have some defense mechanisms. We have the inner narratives which tells us it's okay, it doesn't matter, or we can talk to ourselves in some way, or we have some kind of defenses. There it's just open, you're so open. And because I allowed my attention to go into that, all that pain came. And at some point I had to let him go. It was part of his karma and I had to let him go, but the pain was too strong. And I gathered myself and came back to my post, and then I continued. And again, another human being came, a man or woman, doesn't matter, one after the other again, the bliss, the joy, merging, golden light, all beautiful. And after some time, again, another one who is blind. And again, can't see me, and again towards the ditch. And then again, I'm sobbing and crying, don't go, stop, can't you see me? So I'm laughing about it now, but at that time it was very dramatic. As I said, there was a lot of crying. So then this lady saw that for my emotional health, it was time to take me out of this. Just time to take me out. And then we sat and spoke about it. So she said, at a deeper level, you have a very high potential, but to deal with these supreme energies and to help people, you first need to have equanimity. Masters who master the mind, they know how to deal with duality. They know how to deal with shadow energies. We spoke in the previous episode how Mohanji never revenged, never gave too much attention to those who betrayed him or did dark energy work on him or anything. That's history, He didn't give attention to those who went towards the dark ditch and pulling other people with them. It's just part of their karma, But that doesn't mean that it's pleasant to see that from the vertical time perspective. It's not pleasant to see. It's not pleasant to see demonic beings. It's not pleasant to see any of these cunning games they play. So it's all part of the existence. But if it's all about understanding the big picture and knowing what your mission is. So when Mohanji does his work, he is my inspiration to understand the height of the responsibility when you're in that exalted state, when you are the beacon of light on that hilltop for so many souls. I spoke about what happened in Mansarovar Lake and how many, not just souls in the body, but those who don't even have the body. So many souls benefit from one such awakened presence. And supreme divine intelligence will not give the state to somebody who cannot handle it. So to even having a glimpse of that state, or to have a small percentage of an idea what it means to operate from that level, and the kind of alertness one needs to have, the kind of inner emptiness and surrender one needs to have to operate in that way. It's mind-blowing, and it's very inspiring. So in day-to-day life, it's just about being grounded and mission-focused. So for example, we are now in Bangalore with Mohanji. He wakes up every morning 3:30. And it doesn't matter when we slept, 3:30 he wakes up, he kind of gets ready and takes his laptop and a recorder and mic and goes to the living room and records a message for the Early Birds Club and some other club, and answers the messages, and he starts his day from that space. Complete equanimity. When he talks, he never has any decision in advance what he's going to talk about. It's a complete alignment, emptiness, unconditionality of love, expression, fresh expression from the source energy, and simply being focused on the mission. And there's a lot of buzzing creativity from that space, like a fountain. So many new ideas. The other day he wrote a song and gave it to Yelena. She now composed it, and we are expecting soon to have one superb song available to humanity. So many things. He's writing poems, he's writing texts, blogs, it's book, recording podcast, like one thing after the other, it all flows. So it's all about the intensity and being in that flow and being aligned and being available. And it's all actually very simple. But to reach that state, we have to, at some point, leave the gravity of the ego. If you imagine ego is like a planet, and then you have another much bigger planet, like Jupiter, for example, right there, who is the guru planet. So for you to change from one orbit to another, there's that point where you are leaving one and you haven't yet reached the other. That's the most vulnerable point, right? So when ego starts losing its grip, but you haven't yet transcended the ego. And we have to understand how tough it is for human beings to go through this process. But when you have somebody who is already there, and that somebody just gives you one word of advice, or just tells you, we watched the other day our beautiful Sarah, Milica's daughter. Sarah is just such a beacon of light, such a beautiful, pure soul. And when he told her, I'm with you, he told us, I'm with you to many people, but they didn't get it, right? They didn't actually understand what he's saying. It was enough to tell Sarah once, I'm with you. And he's with her. And she knows, and she experiences, and she can connect to his eyes on his eye card, and so it's not about the number of hours you spend in his presence. It's not about the number of words you get from the master. It's about your readiness to understand, your eligibility. And one more thing that I would like to share before I open it up for questions is, it was a year ago, also in India, that we were visited by one lady. She kind of I didn't know how she came to our house. It wasn't that, we didn't really invite her, but she kind of made it happen in such a way that she comes. And we didn't even know much about her. But she came with another man and then it turns out that she's doing this fortune telling and predicting future and stuff. So I really didn't know how to behave because I'm taught to respect everyone. So we invited her over, gave an honorary chair, and she sat down, and there were a couple of us from different parts of the world, as usual, around Mohanji. And suddenly she goes into this demonstration of her spiritual powers, and she starts talking and predicting future, And it was just hilarious because more than half of what she was saying was actually not true. So one of the disciples in Canada, she told him, don't get married, but he's already married and has 2 kids, so we had to laugh about it. Then another, like a George, who looks like a bit like a rap singer to her, she told George, oh, you're a dancer, and he's totally not into dancing, So it was like almost like a comedy show, really funny. And then when she came to me, she spoke something, and I remember that she said, you have 4 more lives before you reach the highest state, something like that. And at that moment I looked at Mohanji, and I could just see his eyes were beaming, like he like had it, with this lady, but he was polite until she left. After she left, I could just feel something was brewing inside of him, and there was this unforgettable intensity, a Shaivik intensity in his eyes. And after she left, he looked at me and he said, you mark my words. And I was already shivering. He said, you mark my words. At the time when I'm leaving my body, all those who are deeply connected with me, with consistency and surrender, they will be elevated, and they will have the chance to complete the solution. I guarantee you that. So that was like, we were all speechless, and Simonji doesn't talk about the future much, but there's one, that was the moment he made the promise. He made the promise, because this is the path of the solution. This is not a joke path where we go he, ha, 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 and go for feel-good things. Yeah? It's a hardcore path, and it's not for everyone. So those who don't find themselves on this path, they prefer something a bit lighter. It's okay. But those who do, Mohanji is not saying, you just need, I'm going to help you to be more rich and to look more young and to be more comfortable in your life. No, this is a path of dissolution, which is even beyond enlightenment. So to reach there, you need to start walking the path with conviction, and to have consistency of connection with the master. So based on free will and conscious choice and maturity. Right? So he's not gonna try to scare you with something or give false promises. But that was the time when he made this promise. And for days I was chewing on this. I was digesting these words because they were just so powerful. So I hope in some way I was able to convey something of a deeper meaning for all of you. I'll start now with the questions. Yelena is my assistant here. Yes, Yelena?
Well, we're still waiting for some questions. So I can put it, open, and they can ask whatever they want.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll start with one question that I got 2-3 episodes ago. From a lady who said that her daughter is similar to me when I was in my early 30s, and I couldn't find the right partner and so forth. So how can I talk more about the law of attraction and how you attract the right partner? Now, I've already explained how it worked for me. And this law of attraction is just like law of gravity. It's a cosmic law, it works. But what is the main pitfall? What is the main stumbling block for people? When they ask for something, they don't surrender it, But if you just leave the seed in the ground and allow the time, and you don't ask when will it happen, how will it happen, you had clarity. It's something that's positive, that doesn't hurt anyone, so there's no reason why universe would not want to make it happen for you. And you just have clarity what it is. Feel it as if it already happened, and place it as a seed in the ground, and then just leave it. Focus on something else. But what do people do? They keep revisiting it. They keep revisiting, they keep asking, when will it happen? Will it really happen? I wonder how will it happen? Through whom will it happen? Well, that's plucking the seed out of the ground. And another thing is, when we ask something that's of benefit for others, something that is based in love. Like in my case, I asked to serve the world with somebody who has mastered the mind, who's like a master but humble and unassuming, and we serve the world together. It's a humble, positive, request, which is of help to everyone. So when you make such a request and you plant the seed and you don't dig it out, but you just work on yourself and you actually work on increasing your own frequency. So I started practicing yoga more, I was doing more social work and charity, and then when I wanted to increase the charity work, that's when I actually met Mohanji. So that's all a confirmation for me that to actually ask for something of substance, think of something that is of help to everyone, or there's something that's positive and loving, and connect that with your, if it's a partner, then connect it with the partner, or whatever it is that you ask, and make it something that is helpful to others as well, not something that is selfish, just about fulfilling of my own desire. Then 100% it's going to happen. Like the universe will rush to give it to you, or divine or God, however you want to call it, will rush to give it to you. So overall, this is my advice. But also the moment when you are planting the seed, it should be when you're at least in the alpha state of mind. So that is why I have recorded the Awakening Yoga Nidra, where you can actually do this very easily. So I recommend to do at least once Awakening Yoga Nidra and plant your seed, and then be rid of it. You know that you have planted it and you left it, and focus on something else. Focus on raising your frequency. So that would be my advice. Okay, and there was one more thing that I wanted to touch upon. On my path, I was blessed to meet the great masters at the right time. And I mentioned how big of a role Devi Amma played in my life. Because somebody who can read from the Akash, who is so deeply connected with the Agastya Maharishi, or sage Agastya from the Satya Yuga, who is like an amazing rishi, beyond description, how grand his presence was and is. So she was the first person to tell me that masters have somebody great, somebody special for you. So that gave me the thought that yes, it's possible for me to ask something so big, like having a master as a husband. But through Devi Amma, especially beautiful moments have happened after I met Mohanji and I introduced Mohanji to Devi Amma, spoke about her, and that first meeting with Mohanji and Devi Amma was unbelievable. And from then there were many, many meetings. She's like a member of our family. And I will never forget the moment when, Devi Amma actually explained how Mohanji came on earth. And this again is connected with the vertical time and our concept of linear time actually not being the reality. Because if you look at Mohanji as just personality born in South India, in 1965, and that's not who Mohanji is, And basically, Devi Amma said that it was sage Agastya who Agastya Rishi actually created Mohanji. So you could say it's his son. And Sai Baba, when he referred to Mohanji, he says, "My son." So I was like, what does this mean? What do you mean, my son? So she said that sage Agastya brought Mohanji to earth. So since then, Mohanji, or the consciousness that works through Mohanji, became available to us. So this was quite a big deal, because I would have to check how many thousands of years ago this was, but it's a huge number. And not only that, we have come to know that Boganathar, who was the guru of Mahathar Babaji, was also Mohanji's guru. So that was yet another revelation that we had. So there was another saint who told Mohanji that Bhoganatha gave him everything. There's nothing for him to add, to learn in this lifetime, just to expound and share, give that what he already got. So every now and then we meet some siddhas, some great masters, and they always speak about Mohanji as a great siddha, avaduta, even though he's a householder in this lifetime. At a different level, he's an avaduta as well, and as his wife, I can vouch for that. He's completely in that detached state. You will never see him being carried away with emotions, or he lives as a householder. But if he just started a life of an avaduta on the street tomorrow, it wouldn't be any different. So just because you live in a house and you have some so-called comforts doesn't mean that you are attached to them. He doesn't have attachment to any of it. And in case of myself and Mila, he doesn't give us any special privileges. He doesn't pamper us. On the contrary, he always raises the bar higher in terms of how we are supposed to behave and what we are, the values that we are supposed to live. So it's actually extra responsibility to be Mohanji's wife or to be Mohanji's child. So we are doing our best, I hope, to live that. But it's a tall order, So we don't get privileges and status and benefits, or just like, for example, you're in a royal family and you have certain privileges. It's not like that, because this is a royal path of understanding the royalty from within, that everything you actually desire is within you. That is the royalty. Yes, Yana?
Okay, we have a question. What kind of sadhana should I do to deeply connect to the Gurudev? How can I know that I am on the right path?
So what kind of sadhana to do, and how to know that I'm on the right path? Basically, you first start with sincerity. If a connection is sincere, it is felt by Mohanji. He says, imagine somebody prays to me or mentally talks to me in a very sincere way. In that moment, I feel like one of the hairs on my head has been pulled. So he, first of all, understanding that he's not the body or the mind or intellect, he's the consciousness. And when you connect, it's actually happening. So if you don't have that understanding, you will just kind of like follow somebody told me we'll do it like this. On this path, Mohanji says, this is the path of pathlessness, or datta path, where it's enough to just jump into the river.
We are back. Okay, so we will continue where we stopped just now. I think we have sorted out our connection issue. So the question was, how do I connect with Mohanji and Mohanji's consciousness? As I said, on this path, it's enough to just, first of all, make a conscious decision. This path is based on free will, and certain maturity is required to recognize the depth of this path, because nothing is displayed too openly. There is no display of spiritual powers. There are no big promises. Every now and then you hear some of us sharing our experiences about some profound moments where we experience Mohanji being present in two locations at the same time, or Mohanji's voice being heard or being saved in the last moment from some car accident by Mohanji, or many things like that. But mainly it's all a flow, and with Mohanji it all goes very naturally. So as I said, I was the first one on the list to take the time to recognize the level from which Mohanji operates. I still wonder whether I really fully got it, but I hope I did. Now, to connect with Mohanji, there are simple ways. We used to hand out this iCard, and even then the shadow forces were playing games when some were saying, this is some hypnotism or some silly stories. So we stopped giving the iCards. But for example, it was even proven that this iCard was just not normal picture of somebody's eyes. It was when the master gives an intention and places that blessing or that intention into a simple iCard, it becomes like a little link or connection into the consciousness if you approach it with humility and seriousness. So just a simple picture of Mohanji's face where you can see his eyes, because eyes are the gateway to the soul, or the soul aspect. And in this terms, consciousness. So you just need to take it seriously, connect, and ask any of your question, ask for the guidance, ask for the blessing. And in my personal opinion, the fastest way to start connecting with Mohanji and connecting with the consciousness is to observe closely how he behaves and imitate, you know. So this is much more difficult than you may think, because Mohanji never gossips, Mohanji never revenges, Mohanji never gives attention to the negative topics. He's very disciplined and very loving. He's very purpose-oriented, very high level of dedication and commitment and discipline and speed. And everything on top of that goes with ease. You don't see Mohanji going, today I have to write another blog, or nothing like that, you know. Even when he faces many complex issues with the people, with the mission, it's all dealt one after the other in an organized way. Always full focus on one matter and then next. He will never postpone and leave anything for the next day. And this is where I learned that this multitasking doesn't quite work. In terms of consciousness, it's we're being fully present with each activity, complete, move on, complete, move on. But the speed is so high that it looks like that 50 things are going on at the same time. So I have started to experience this, and I'm active in Equanimity Foundation, in Early Birds Club, in Maitri, in this board, this group, that group, you know. So sometimes it all mixes up in a big bundle, and then I start addressing one, and then the other one pops out, then I forget about this one, go to that one, and then I remind myself, no, this is not the way Mohanji does it. So like last night, I started writing a report for Equanimity Foundation, and I sat until 1:30 in the morning to finish it. I didn't want to delay, you know. So, and it's fine. The energy comes because you're doing something that is selfless, you know. And so it's like dedication, responsibility. Nobody is pushing you. Nobody is saying how many hours did you spend. Like let's say if you become Mohanji Acharya or you're a volunteer or you take any responsibility. You feel a certain sense of contentment, you know, fulfillment, when you do something of value for the greater good, you know. So that's why I say people who fantasize about being gurus, you know, they don't actually understand how challenging it is and what a great responsibility it is. It's a continuous responsibility. And that power that the master carries comes from this great responsibility. So there are no pink glasses there, you know. It's a hardcore work. But it's a work without burden. It's a pure karma yoga, no expectation, no attachment to the result, right? So this is the key. That's where the energy comes from. Purity of intention, pure karma yoga, feeling the oneness with everyone, just flowing with all of it. This is what makes it special and beautiful. So now, for me to go back to office work, I feel it's really impossible, you know, because I now feel what life in its full potential is about, you know, when life has a higher purpose. I'm not here demeaning anybody else who works in the office, because you can also work in the office and do higher purpose related work. But my calling came to be fully on the path, and it took time, as I shared in the previous episodes. But it's a beautiful thing to really just jump in the river and go with it, and whatever comes is okay. Next question.
Can I connect with Shirdi Sai Baba or Mohanji through Kriya? Means, can we talk through Kriya Yoga?
Through Kriya Yoga. Okay, so Kriya as a practice, as a method of connecting with the higher consciousness, it's not profound, but beyond profound. So you are literally cutting across karma, and you are speeding up the process many times over. We don't even know how many lifetimes we skip through Kriya. Now, it's based on free will, choice, dedication and practice. And it's about shifting more and more into the vertical time and connecting with the higher consciousness through the spine, which is the essence of Mohanji's teachings. Now, whether you practice the Kriya or you just do Mohanji's meditations, you can still connect in that vertical way, but Kriya as a method is perfect in itself, and definitely through Kriya you start connecting with the consciousness of Mohanji, and through Mohanji with Baba and the entire tradition, right? So Mohanji always says the guru that comes to you, this is important to understand. One guru is all the gurus. Sometimes we say, thank you, Mohanji, Baba, this one, that one, that one, that one. Actually, it's all one. As he said, it's a grand collaboration. All the masters are one within the consciousness of your guru. So if you have higher voltage electricity available street next to you, and for you to get that voltage, you first need a transformer to bring, and the wire that brings it to your house. Now, you're not concerned about anything else but that one wire that comes to your house, because this is how you get it. You're not going to get it by standing under some big transformer outside, right? Because it will burn your body. You're not able to take it. So when we have a guru in our life, we get the voltage that we can take, and Kriya is, as far as I know, the most effective way of increasing our ability to handle higher and higher and higher voltage of energy. So it really opens you up. It really works at the deepest possible level. And you could say that one Kriya is like one lifetime less in terms of karmic backlog. So it's a huge thing. Again, we are quite strict with the Kriya that Mohanji Series, we call it consciousness Kriya. You have to apply for it. You have to, in a satisfactory manner, reply to the questions asked by the Kriya board. And once you get the Kriya, it's again up to you to recognize its depth and to practice it on a daily basis. But it's a serious commitment, and it's a serious way of entering vertically into the connection with the highest consciousness. Now, Mohanji gives a beautiful example, which we always quote. If you have a spoon has a shape through which you can hold any liquid, thicker liquid or soup, or doesn't matter, right? Because spoon has that shape. But what happens if you turn the spoon vertically? Nothing stays. No liquid stays in the spoon, even though it has the shape to hold the liquid. So it's the same with us. We are programmed, with our mind, body, intellect, complex to an ego to all the time glue on so many different emotions, and we are all the time, happily gluing on more luggage and weight through emotions, because emotion is the glue of karma. But if you keep your spoon vertical and you connect to higher consciousness through the vertical breathing with the little attunement tricks that Master gives you through Kriya initiation, then things don't glue on in the same way as they used to. And this is a huge difference. That actually makes the biggest of difference. So it's what I started my sharing today was that how what I saw, what happens when you're in an exalted state and then you don't detach from the emotion of feeling sorry for somebody who's falling into the ditch. We can't feel sorry for people. There may be people we know of who may go into depression or suicide, especially now in the time of Corona. It's our duty, even through Maitri, through help desk that we formed. We are there to help. We are there to hold the light. But we can't get attached to your lower emotions, because then we fall as well. So it's a maturity that's required. When you're helping somebody, you're not going to help them by being pulled down yourself. That's not help. Then why are you even doing it? Better not do it at all. Right? So if you're in a position to help others, you need to remain the beacon of light no matter what. Sometimes we just need to accept that some people are not ready. But anyway, even if their life ends with a physical death, that's not the death of that's not the end. We know that we are souls that exist continuously, and that the so-called death is only transition. The journey continues on and on. So we have to learn this equanimity, detachment, and that's where that vertical connection comes into the story. So being in the central axis, being vertically aligned, connected with the consciousness, being in the surrender, and simply being available, as Mohanji says, just be available to help.
I think you already answered this question.
Okay.
Because the question was, what exactly does the word connect mean? You just said...
Yeah, so the word connect doesn't mean that there's a distance. It simply means that, you know, in that moment, that consciousness becomes alive. It's, you know, there's a difference between a spark and a fire, right? So in consciousness, there is no distance. It's just a matter of us, how, when you open the tap, is it trickling the water or is it flowing fully? So all of us, all the potential, everything we are ever going to be is already within, you know. I remember Adi Shankaracharya said beautifully, you know, that when you look at the mirror, like the whole universe is within the soul. In the same way, the reflection that you see in the mirror, you can't think that it's going to be there once you remove the mirror. If you remove the mirror, the reflection is also gone. But when we look at the mirror, we look at the reflection, right? We don't realize that this reflection is actually one with the mirror, right? So the whole universe is within the soul. And there is no distance in the consciousness. So the deeper we go within, that's where the Guru is. Guru Tattva is within us. It's not about the person called Mohanji being outside of you, and then you're thinking, if I travel by airplane and be with him for a couple of days, I will come closer to it. There's no distance, you know? Like we, as I said, Sarah, for example, she's in the wheelchair, she cannot travel, but she may be more connected than any of us, you know? So it doesn't mean that you have to be physically present, but physical presence has its benefits in terms of ego bashing, in terms of seeing firsthand how he responds to sudden events of life and being inspired by that. And simply being in the aura is it's a great blessing. But it doesn't mean that if you are on the other part of in the other part of the world, that you are disconnected just because you're physically apart. So that's an illusion. Yeah. So in consciousness, there is no distance. Yeah. Okay. So if there's no other question, I would I would like to end the session by thanking you for journeying with me. I was hoping to offer some of my insights, some of my reflections, and I continue sharing through the podcast, where there will be much more coming. So it's also free of cost. You can join me on devimohan.podbean.com. And that's where I talk also with deeper, intimate stories. I started with a series about Mahatma Babaji. But the stories about the greatest of the masters and the light that they continue to emanate, and how in that unity consciousness it's all one and connected. And how it's really up to us to feel that we belong to that consciousness, that is our home. Thank you so much, and we meet again. We are together. Thank you.